a behavioral interventionist in special ed, mostly autism,
Okay.
students with autism. Um, I chose school counseling because I wanted to have, another role. There's only, a lot of limitations you can do in my role. Um, but I think I was going back and forth between a teacher or a autism specialist, and then I just decided on school counseling, and I think it's the right thing to do. So,
All right. Thank you, Karina. Although I can't say that my day's any different than yours.
I can go next.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Shalay Call. I do currently work for Long Beach Unified School District. I'm office supervisor. I've been working for the district for 7 years. Um, I chose school counseling. How can I can't really explain it. I feel like I have been doing it for so long without getting paid.
Okay.
Yes, if that makes sense. So I feel like I've been doing it for
Yes.
so long. And the opportunity just arose. My friend had told me about it. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this program. You should check it out." Our lives are pretty much the same. Husband, kids, busy, 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 sports. She's like, "This program will be great. You should check it out." And I'm like, I'm so mad I didn't do this sooner. So super excited about it. I plan to stay with my same district. So I'm really excited about it and think I'm pretty good at it. So
Yeah. Thank you.
I can go next. My name is Michaela Costas. Good evening. I am a substitute teacher, and the reason why I got into school counseling is because I love the idea of making an impact on all domains, not just the academic side, but the career and the social emotional learning. So I'm really excited. Happy to be in this class.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Who has not had the opportunity to go?
I can
Okay.
go. Hi, I'm Victoria Fuentes. I'm an office clerk at a high school. I chose school counseling. I always wanted to be in the counseling field. I didn't know exactly where, and I just so happened to feel like I fit in education. Education's been kind of like my thing. So that's why I chose school counseling.
Thank you, Victoria. Cassandra, you were going to go next?
Yes, so my name is Cassandra, and I've been in the school district for 6 years now. And the reason why I chose to be a school counselor is because I wanted to be maybe like an outlet to students, whether they need help academically or emotionally, as mentioned before me. Um, yeah, I just wanted to be somebody that students can trust if they need help filling out applications, things like that, because I know when I was in high school, I felt a little lost in that sense. So
Hmm.
I kind of want to be that person for students, especially who are in ELAC and things like that. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Thank you.
Can I go next?
Okay, great.
All right. Hello. Yes, my name is Diana Hernandez. Been in education for about 14 years. My background has always been with TRIO, so I worked many years for Upward Bound, which is a college prep program, and I just recently started working with Talent Search, so around the same branch. I chose school counseling because I think it's probably the career path that will allow me to better support students. I primarily work with first generation students, and I would like to one day become a director of a TRIO program and continue working with first gen students. Mhm.
Great. Thank you.
I can go next.
Thank you.
I'm Sarah. I am in my 7th year of teaching elementary school, so I'm currently a 4 or 5 combo. And over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to work with students who have ranged of various social emotional needs and have found myself very drawn to those students and creating relationships with them. Um, Today, out on the recess field, there was a little kid in crisis, and I was like, I got you, buddy. Running over. I'm like, I can go help. And so that's kind of where my heart has been drawn to in teaching. And so school counseling became an opportunity that I could take and seems like a right avenue to open up an opportunity in education still.
Thank you. We have Jeremy and Joseph. You guys want to go?
I can go. Yeah. My name's Jose. I've been subbing for a little bit under a year now. And then I think the reason that I was attracted to becoming a school counselor was I had a lot of friends and family that were involved in like either teaching or counseling capacity and subbing, and they had recommended it to me, and a lot of the stuff that they were doing and practicing and learning sounded really interesting, specifically from this program. So I decided to sign up.
Great.
Really good.
Great. Thank you, Jose. Jeremy?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm currently a current substitute as well, and
Mhm.
I think I found my footing in school counseling when I was like what's it called? When I was working at a summer camp, and we were with
Okay.
kids for like 8 to 10 hours a day, and it was like that was when kids would just come up to me as like I would lead groups and stuff around doing like science camps and rocket like bottle
Mhm.
rockets, and we teach them other things. But then it was like at the end of the day when students would really come up to me and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they just wanted someone to talk to, just flat out, and just you're just there for them as that person that they can go to because yeah. So that's when I found school counseling.
Excellent. Tina, can you hear us? Are you able to go?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you. I'm just driving home. I been in school. Well, I've been with the district for about 10 years now. I'm a TK assistant. So I work with the little 4-year-olds, and then I also do the after-school program, which is why I'm on my way home. With middle school. And since I've been doing both, it's 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 hand in hand with counseling. The middle school students would always approach me and we'd get talking. And so I just figured it's time for a change. And that's why I chose school counseling to really get more personal and get paid for talking to, like Miss Hall said, Miss Shelley. Um, just to, in a different level, different way, different perspective.
Thank you, Tina. All right. Did anybody not go?
Yes, I haven't gone. Okay, hi. My name is Sandra. I teach sixth grade. I've been teaching for like about 25 years now. And I just want like a change in career.
Mhm.
As teachers, like we do a little bit of everything. We're like the nurse, counselor. And so I just feel like it's time to have a career change. And so I want to pursue counseling. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to quickly go over, well, first I'm going to lecture and then I'll go over um, your assignments and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm going to begin talking about our first two chapters. Our book is called Interrupting Racism. So I'll be focusing on what are our primary responsibilities as school counselors to be advocates and really a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's important for all students to receive all of our counseling tools and making sure that we don't focus on just the few. Okay, so this book is going to and challenge our social and add to our social competencies and make us advocates for all students and make sure that each student has an equitable opportunity to access our school counseling program. Okay, so a brief history. The chapter 1 starts talking about what is the achievement gap. So the achievement gap is really just one or more groups of students, either by race, ethnicity, gender, that outperforms another group. And the differences in the average scores for these two groups is statistically significant. So this is the achievement gap that has been measured by ESA, our Elementary and Secondary Act. And we have our standardized testing that has changed over time. And so we are charting this. And this is also where we're noticing that students, the reading levels of students, and then we also look at the subgroups of the students to see who's performing and who isn't performing and who needs more support and why. So the NCES explored the achievement gap between the Blacks and the whites and Hispanic students, and the data had patterns that have changed over time. And so what we are focusing on now as school counselors is what is the data for our particular schools? What are our groups of students, our subgroups of students? And do we have any historically marginalized students on our campuses, right? And so we're looking at the data to see if there's a group that is outperforming another group, and then we're looking at how do we support that group that's being outperformed. So what do they need that they're not getting through our basic education? So when we're looking at the different scores of two groups of students, whether it's a male, female, Black, white, Hispanic, and white, we're looking at the marginal error. And there's several ways that the achievement gap can change, and it can be seen and displayed in many different ways. So the NEAEP data can be used to identify gaps and trends over time, but doesn't necessarily explain why the gaps exist. So our role as a school counselor is to ensure that we understand why that gap exists and are we addressing it, because we can't just ignore the gap and keep moving forward. So I have 3 videos that I'm going to share with you, and they're coming from 3 different states, and each state, the size of the gap can be different. So each state looks at what are their marginalized groups, what are the groups that are outperforming the other groups, and what are the ones that they need to focus on to give them equitable education, right? Sound good?
Educational inequality is probably more than anything else the fundamental root of broader inequality. If we look at inequality in access to particular careers, inequality in income and wealth, inequality in the nature of political participation, all those things are mitigated by equalizing the skills that education produces, not only the academic skills, but the dispositions, the frames of minds, the conscientiousness, the diligence, the sense of agency. And so I think there is nothing more important we could do to produce the type of society we want than to raise outcomes in the field of education, so that knowing somebody's race or ethnicity tells you nothing at all about what their test scores or grades or occupation might be.
Boston is a place where I think we are a national leader on many educational fronts, but the story is really that we're not doing everything that we want to be doing. We aren't delivering on all of the outcomes that we want to deliver, and it's really an educational equity issue. So we do see the disparities by gender and by race in educational outcomes in Boston, and if we're really going to get to for all results, which is where Boston wants to get, we've got to dig in on educational equity issues.
There's not just one challenge to face when we talk about achievement gaps. Even if we just talk about racial achievement gaps, we have students of color in high-income suburban districts that are lagging their white classmates. We have inner-city school districts that are high poverty, have a difficult time attracting teachers. So the work that needs to happen is to figure out how in each of these contexts we can make the changes that are necessary to produce the excellence to which we aspire. There are needs that kids in inner cities have that people in upper income suburbs never even imagine. But the most effective schools and teachers in the inner city adapt to those needs. They meet the kids where they are. They establish person-environment fit for these kids as they pass through the school. And if we can do that at some greater scale, it truly is plausible that we can have much less poverty in the next generations, and that we can have the society with regard to race that we want in the future. Achievement gaps by race, gender, and socioeconomic status are stark in the national data by the age of 2. So we can't wait till school starts. There's an initiative we just launched in Boston called the Boston Basics, where we've got 5 basic ideas about early childhood parenting, 5 propositions that we want everybody in the city to know. We're saturating the city with what young parents of young children need to know in order that their kids don't fall behind by the age of 2. It's not just about giving them information, it's about building that niche of social support around them so that they know that the grandparents and the relatives and the minister and the barber all know this is important and that they are being supported to do these things. You can do it with materials that are already in the house, and there's nothing in here that is particular to any particular racial, ethnic, or socioeconomic group. This is human stuff. This is stuff that everybody in the community can benefit from. Second thing that excites me these days is the youth culture piece of it. Schools have 2 curricula. They have the curricula the teachers teach and the ones the kids teach. Part of what we're picking up is a lot of the misbehavior is instances where kids are doing things they don't even want to do. They're just trying to fit in. And so the idea of intervening into the youth culture and helping kids to develop the culture they really want in their school. They've already got the right values. They don't have the social opportunities to live out those values.
You just have to help students want to help each other.
So it takes student leadership to give people permission even to say what they would think is cool. So are you a student leader?
I tried.
You try to be? Well, how plausible is it that you could organize a project at the school where you would get students to talk honestly about the way they really want it to be? If you could, we can tell your story. You can help other people at other places. There's no choice but to try to make the things happen that we know need to happen, because it's too scary what would happen if they don't happen. These days are so reminiscent of the 60s and early 70s. All those issues are coming back. There was a period where you thought we'd gotten over that, but there are enough instances where people have produced lots of progress in inner city schools to think that if we really want to do it, if we really have the political will to make it happen, we can. It's our generational responsibility to work on it, no matter whether we're optimistic or pessimistic.
Okay, so that was Boston, New York. And so that one was what their goals were. Their goals are to do it early, have student leaders. So those are some of the concepts that they're using. We'll move on to the next city. Did that transition well?
The achievement gap is that difference in academic performance and proficiency between African American and Latino and Native American students versus the Anglo or white students.
It's really the difference between black and brown students versus their white counterparts and the academic difference that exists. It's also by income. And in Denver, we know that income and ethnicity are highly correlated. And it's that gap that exists from achievement that starts at kindergarten and doesn't, and while we're doing a better job as a school district, it doesn't ever really close.
The achievement gap, which is also frequently now talked about as the opportunity gap, is the inequity of opportunity that our children have to achieve the same future in their lives by especially race and class.
And the question behind the achievement gap is why do some students do so well and other students we never overcome their zip code or their parents' income level? Why can't schools make up for that?
It shows up because students who have different socioeconomic backgrounds don't get access to a set of skills or experiences, which means they show up to school, kindergarten, 5th grade, 9th grade, freshman year of college, without the same set of background they would have gotten if they were born a mile to the east or a mile to the west or with a parent that made $50,000 more than their parents make.
There are some individuals who just getting out of 8th grade is enough, who just getting through high school is enough. And then there's another demographic of individuals who are being told graduate school, higher education. And I think the achievement gap that I see comes in the messaging that we give to students.
I think you can also look at achievement gaps around academic preparation, around students with special needs, students who are English language learners. I think there are really important gaps there as well.
A lot of times it has to do with what's happening at the student's home.
I think the achievement gap really starts with what people are calling it now, which is an opportunity gap. So what you see at the end is a reflection of what happens at the beginning of the education system.
The allocation of resources for the schools, the allocation of human resources, the buildings that students are in, even the layout of buildings that way. And so I think all of those different factors go into the achievement gap. And then I think the achievement gap is as well the time and opportunity that our parents have to really be advocates for their own child's education.
The achievement gap is that you as a white middle-class person has to run 26.2 miles. The Latino student has to run 30 miles. The black student who grew up in poverty with the single mom has to run 35 miles. That's really the achievement gap. What's happening is that nobody's showing up at the starting line equal. And somehow, at the end of the marathon, is a college graduation or is a great career. Well, they have to make up 10 miles.
When we talk about the achievement gap, which I call an opportunity gap, and the reason I do is because it's not the kids' fault they're not achieving. The blame lies here with the policymakers and others who have neglected to really factor in their achievement as a priority.
And that's Denver's take on it. As you can see, Denver is focusing on the opportunity, using the word opportunity, because everyone isn't getting a fair start. So how do we address those students who don't have, the help from their family members? They aren't being taught, maybe income is an issue, maybe environment, home life is an issue. So it's about their opportunity to achieve. And so we need to, as counselors, as educators, help to make it more equitable for them so that they get the same, they cross the finish line. And like the gentleman said, the finish line is a great career, a college degree. So how do they get across that line? Many of them are, not getting there as quickly as others. And now let's take a look at California.
Come on in, guys. Good morning. A lot of these kids fall through the cracks. They think of a place like Oakland, and it's like Oakland, or it's East Oakland. It's like crime, poverty.
Oakland really has a really bad dropout rate. I could say, I've lost kids to prostitution. I mean, there's a few girls that are on East 14th right now. Unfortunately, I lost 2 kids to gang-infested neighborhoods where, they got shot and killed. And so we lose that. We lose them like that.
So many exciting education efforts really focus on closing what's called the achievement gap. Today, we're going to spend some time with Susanna Loeb, a leading researcher, to learn more about what the achievement gap is. We're also going to visit the Oakland Charter Academy to see the human side of this data and the students that it actually impacts.
When I think about achievement gaps, I think that they're just these big structural differences between the average achievements of groups that really should be performing at about the same level. You're a child who happens to be born into a higher income or middle income family. You are 50% at least likely to go and complete a college degree. If you're the same child, but you're born into a low income family, then you have something like a 1 in 10 chance of going to college, a huge difference. There's also racial and ethnic gaps and gender gaps and language gaps. It's a reflection of not giving kids the opportunity that they need to be what they could be.
I'm not pro-charter. I mean, I should be saying this right now, but I'm just pro-good schools. I myself come from a farm working family, raised in a trailer. When we talk about achievement gap, you should never judge a student from their zip code.
Is it possible for changes to schools and school models to shift with that gap, to decrease the gap?
Schools have traditionally been the lever that we have to make a difference in kids' lives, and I think we've had increasing evidence that schools can really do that.
So those are all the students that Mr. Lopez and Ms. Villa have worked with.
Actually, I have like a few of them graduating this month from different colleges. Jenny Luan graduated from Amherst, and she came back, and she's gonna go to medical school. A lot of them come back, which is really nice.
That's exciting.
Yeah. They're from here. They're gonna be here. Their parents are gonna be here. You live in Fruitvale, right down the street, right?
Yeah.
Come talk to us for a second. So she has older siblings that came to the school system as well. And your sister is now in college, right?
Yeah.
At what school?
UC Santa Cruz. I like to think of the school as being my role models and also my sister, because I think about my future and I want to be something in life. I really want to set an example for my younger sisters and other classmates.
Great research helps us understand inequalities in education so we can all come together to fix them. There's a lot more to figure out about how to erase the achievement gap, but it's inspiring to know that great educators are already making a difference.
All right, so we saw 3 different areas and what their thoughts are on focusing on the achievement gap. Each area has a different concept or a different goal that they're working on to decrease the achievement gap and to bring more equity to all students. All right, so the achievement gap was typically defined with Blacks and whites, and divided or increasingly the Hispanics and whites. But the gap could be defined by a socioeconomic status, which is what we heard, or criterion referenced or norm reference. And we also heard that it is synonymous with opportunity gap. So some of the things that have been tried to decrease this gap is since the 1960s, we've had 4 different categories that address this area. It's the preschool reforms, the teacher reforms, instructional reforms, and standard-based reforms. So with the preschool reforms, that's the early childhood education. That's where everyone focused on. And we heard that from New York, where they think that you should start as early as the age of 2, and making sure that everybody has an opportunity to start at that time. And then if by doing that, we kind of lessen the gap there. And we want to take advantage of preschool programs, but that hasn't been, we haven't seen the results of that. Now, we know in public education, we're bringing in all the 4-year-olds. So we are addressing that in public education. We're trying to bring them in sooner. This upcoming year, it doesn't matter when your birthday is, as long as you're 4, you can start TK. And this is one of the ways in California. So this is one of the ways that we're addressing it. With teacher reforms, we've used teacher quality. And it works in certain schools. It doesn't work in other schools. Some people don't believe in the achievement gap. Some people don't believe in the marginalized population. They want to treat everyone the same, but honestly, everyone is not the same. So if we go at it with that concept, then we're going to consistently have these gaps because everybody comes in differently. And then, you can have 2 gender students, you can have 2 racial students, you can have 2 socioeconomic students. And we also have to understand coming from the same community and their experiences are not going to be the same. So we cannot treat them all the same. We have to look at each one individually and figure out why they're not achieving. And then we have the instructional reforms. This is where we have all the intervention that we have. And we're constantly changing our interventions to be able to assist everybody. And I know we went from phonics to no phonics to whole whole learning to back to phonics. So now all of our programs are rooted in phonics for reading. And we according to the data, we see that that's the most effective, all right? We also are trying to put more technology into our instructional reforms to see if more students are able to do better with technology. And then we also have Common Core that helps us to connect ourselves from state to state. So in talking about opportunity versus the achievement gap, we are looking at, does everybody have equal opportunity when coming to school? And we already know that the answer to that is no, because each person comes from a different background, different experiences, and we know that students have a difficult time. And if I'm coming in with a lot of social, emotional situations, then I'm not even ready for learning. I'm already dysregulated, and you're giving me the multi-sensory and modes of learning as a teacher, but I'm not ready to receive it. And so that needs to be addressed first before I can show you what I know. I have another video for you on the opportunity.
In a room with a bunch of people. You have a crumpled piece of paper. Imagine you're standing in a room with a bunch of people. You have a crumpled piece of paper in your hand. On one side of the room, there's a bucket. Everyone in the room has one shot to get their paper in the bucket, without moving. The paper is your shot at success. Not everyone has an equal opportunity. These differences represent the opportunity gap. Many factors affecting the opportunity gap are out of a student's control, just like your starting position in the room. The opportunity gap is based on the availability of resources and opportunities. On the other hand, the achievement gap is the uneven distribution of educational results or benefits. And we can help close the achievement gap by first confronting the opportunity gap. How do opportunity gaps manifest themselves as achievement gaps? Inadequate health care can lead to poor health and poor attendance. This may prevent the student from effectively learning the curriculum and meeting standard. An unstable family life, being in a shelter, having problems with transportation, or being in a low-income household can mean it's hard to focus on school. Poor nutrition can mean the body is low on fuel and feel fatigued. This makes it hard to focus. Inequitable funding of schools means that different schools have different resources to support their students. Achievement is directly related to opportunity. It's not impossible to achieve success with the odds stacked against you, but it makes things more difficult. The board can influence some factors with policies to address chronic absenteeism, recommending legislation to meet the state's constitutional obligation to fund basic education, and provide leadership in personalizing education. Now imagine there's someone standing next to the bucket when you toss your paper, and that person picks it up from where it's lying and puts the paper in the bucket for you. A positive and encouraging school environment staffed with people who believe in their students can change lives. We all work together to accomplish a common goal, and that goal is the success of all Washington students. The board can work on the opportunity gaps it has stewardship over and be a helping hand to students. Our goal is to help all kids succeed.
So that's the opportunity gap. So we are looking at how, as counselors, how do we make sure that our students have equal opportunity and access to all of the programs that we have available at the school. All right. In chapter 2, we're going to talk a little bit about white privilege and its taboos of its advantages. All right. So white privilege is the invisible force that white people need to recognize that it's, it's something that it's not something that people should feel uncomfortable with because they are white, but it's just the idea that we have that there's privilege for them, and it's an unconscious advantage for the white population. And the white privilege is an influential, systematic system that helps the people, that makes people not be able to access things equitably. All right. So what it means is that we have to have an anti-bias work. And bias, we'll talk a little bit more about what bias is in our other classes, future sessions. But we will go into what it means to have bias. Okay, so racism versus white privilege. Recognizing that white privilege is not racism, but that it exists because of enduring racist racial and biases. Okay. So when we look at racism, we think about individuals and group level processes and structures that are implicated in the reproduction of racial inequality. Systemic racism happens when these structures or processes are carried out by groups with power. So when we're thinking about racism, we're thinking about power. Who has power over others, and how do they use that power, and what is that power oppressing? Okay. And then racism is different from bias because bias can be conscious or unconscious, and it can be against an individual or groups of people based on their identity. And racial bias is a belief, but racism is what happens when that belief is translated into action. So we all have biases. We all have things that make us think, but when we don't act on those actions, then we can control our thought process. When we act on those actions, then we are moving into a different area. So here's some examples of a few different biases. A person crosses the street to avoid walking next to a group of young Black men. A person calls 911 to report the presence of a person of color who is otherwise behaving lawfully. A police officer shoots an unarmed person of color because he fears for his life. A jury finds a person of color guilty of a violent crime despite evidence. A federal intelligence agency prioritizes investigating Blacks and Latino activists rather than investigating white supremacist activists. So these are just examples of biases. All right. So what is the job of a school counselor? We have to work within our ethical guidelines of our fields and our ASCA Association ethical standards for school counselors, and to be culturally sensitive. And when we're thinking of cultural sensitivity, we're thinking of a set of skills that enables us to understand and value similarities and differences in people and modify our behaviors to be most effective and respectful to students and families, and in delivering programs that fit the needs of all diverse learners. So what should we do? We should create a safe and collaborative environment. That's our role, to make sure that everybody has an equitable opportunity to achieve and access all the programs that we have within the school system. We need to call it out when we see it. A lot of times our coworkers are not trying to be racist. They're not trying to be difficult, but sometimes they just carry a bias. And when we hear that bias, we need to make sure that we address the bias, and that we may not agree on that topic, but calling it out helps us to understand that maybe I did think of it this way, and maybe I shouldn't have thought it. It could be as simple as sending a student to the office because their skirt is too short, and saying that all the males in the classroom feel uncomfortable with that student wearing that short skirt. Well, that student is sent and asked to change their clothing, maybe because they have long legs, but did they really, are they following the school policy for clothing or not? Or is it just appears to be more shorter than usual, or because their legs are longer? So we want to make sure that that student doesn't miss out on quality education because they're sitting in the office being disciplined because someone else felt that their skirt was too short. So we need to make sure that, are we doing everybody's skirt that way, or are we just focused on this particular student because they may be more developed, or they may be getting the attention of others? So these are the things that we have to make sure that as counselors, we call it out when we see it. And that Systems change is a systemic change. So we want to make sure that we are advocating for changes when we do see things. So if you're not calling in all the students, but you called in one student for their short skirt, then why is that? Why are we focusing on that person? Why are we focusing on that? Because we feel uncomfortable about it, or the person who sent them out of the room feels uncomfortable about it. But what policy or procedure did they break in wearing that outfit? And, we have to understand that everybody's not going to like what we say. People will take it the wrong way, but we have to have the conversations and we have to have the discussions as school counselors so that we can ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to be able to access all of our programs, and that they aren't challenged. I mean, that they aren't I just lost my chain of thought. That they are able to get the education that they are entitled to despite other people's biases. All right, let's see. So we want to encourage a growth mindset so that because the world is constantly changing. I started 27 years ago. I did 4 years of teaching, and then the rest of my time has been a school counselor. Can't say that school counseling is anything like what it was 20 years ago. So I have had to change with the trends and the things that are happening in school counseling. I remember when I started, data wasn't a big deal. We just kind of did our programs, and we just serviced and triaged as much as we possibly could with the problems. I started in middle school, and middle school is really tough because you've got all that adolescent energy there and a lot of wrongdoing. But today we can't survive without data. So it's really, really important that we focus on the data. Where did we get our information from to guide our counseling program? So we have to have a comprehensive counseling program. And when we're putting in individual and groups and the topics, and we're doing tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 strategies for these students, where did we get that information from? And we have to collect the data to be able to show why and how we're giving our counseling tools to everyone equitably on our campus. All right. So that's chapters 1 and 2. And you guys will read over that some more. Now I want to kind of move into, I wanted to do our lecture first to help us a little bit as I discuss some of the 5 assignments that are due in this course. So our first assignment is the achievement gap. So the achievement gap, now you have a better understanding of what the achievement gap is, what the opportunity gap is. And so when you're looking at that assignment, you're going to first open up the data summary template. And that data summary template is going to ask you questions. Okay. And when you're there, they're asking you to identify who in the building can help you, get information about your data. So you're going to select a school where you have someone there that can get this data about your marginalized group, your achievement gap. All right. Then you're going to review your school improvement plan. That's called your SIP. And you may have access to that. But the school improvement plan goes over the academics, the attendance, the suspensions, and all of that. And that is printed out. We work on that from November to December, and then it's approved by your school site council, and then it's published for the remainder of the school year in order for students to, in order for the school to utilize the money that they receive. So you use the money in the different areas: academics, attendance, the extended education, which are the higher level classes, and then suspensions, which is under school climate. Now, they're changing how they're doing it. So it used to be like 10 different areas. I think they got it down to 4 areas. So that's the focus. And that's where you'll get most of your information. And then you're going to review different reports, like achievement reports, attendance reports, discipline reports, to figure out who are your students that you need to identify. What are the trends that you see in that particular school? And then you can review other resources that you can come in contact with, surveys, we use a program called CKH, Capturing Kids' Hearts. We collect surveys from staff, students, and we just went over these surveys. This is our second year. This is our social emotional program. And we trained everyone from the custodians all the way to, the administrators and the district office people. And so everyone's using this social emotional program throughout our district. And with that program, our survey. So that would be a great survey that we would utilize, because the parents answered questions at the school, the students answered questions at the school, and the teachers answered questions at the school. So that kind of gives you an idea of, how they perceive, how your different groups perceive the school in a social emotional way. And then you're going to just use the school data to compare to other schools, within the district, like district averages, state averages, and you can get that. And then you're going to identify and prioritize data points, okay? So that you'll address through your counseling program. So as we're designing a school counseling program, we have to figure out who are we going to address first. So an example of this for me was last year, at the end of the year, we took a PBIS. Every student in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade answer survey questions on positive behavior. And as a result of that, everyone in that 3rd grade group thought that they were being bullied. Okay. So we needed to review with them what is bullying and what is conflict resolution. So at the beginning of their 4th grade year, I designed 7 lessons and went in and did class lessons for 4th grade. Okay. That's using my data to design my counseling program. Okay. I started with class lessons because the whole group thought anytime you tease someone, that's bullying. Anytime someone said something that they didn't like, that's bullying. So everybody thought they were being bullied, but they were their friends too. So I had to have a discussion with them about what's bullying, what's conflict resolution, and then teach them also how to address conflict. Okay. Like, is it normal? How do you do it? Etc. Right. So I did that through 7 lessons. That took me all the way to December. All right. In December, I had another flare up with the same group of students, except for it came out of 1 class. So now I noticed that the others were kind of getting it, but this 1 class wasn't. So I went in and designed lessons on kindness and tolerance during Kindness Week, because now we had just really mean teasing. So I did 4 more lessons for that particular class. And now I'm designing tier 2 lessons because we have academic achievement in that class that is very low. We have social emotional that's very low. Teasing is still going on. They're not kind to each other. They're fighting all the time. And it's affecting their academics and their attendance. So I have 3 small groups going on as a result of all of this. And it's the same 4th grade. I have 3 4th grade classes, and it's that same group of students, right? And I'm taking the data from this group and designing those lessons. Okay, so that's your template. Now, after you take a look and answer those questions from your template, then you are going to explain policies and procedures in which the school counselor can identify barriers to learning and access to opportunities, particularly for the marginalized students. Well, my whole school is marginalized students. Okay, so I have 50%, I have like 34% African American, 64% Hispanic, and then I have a ton of English language learners, probably like 74% English language learners. And then I have my students with disabilities, which is mixed in there too. And so everybody is a marginalized group. Okay. So when I'm addressing that, I'm pretty much addressing the different marginalized groups in some capacity. Okay. And then I'm going to, I would talk about my school. I would discuss the specific challenges that students have from the particular school, and then address and identify challenges, describe direct and indirect student services which are available to address the gaps and the barriers, and discuss how the school counselor can demonstrate leadership, advocacy, and collaboration from those gaps. So I do the social emotional lessons. I do them in classrooms. Then I move to small group. Then I move to individual. I have about 7 students who are individual. And then when it's bigger than that, like it goes into the household, then I refer out. And I have D.D. Hirsch Mental Health Services on my campus. So then I refer out to them. They're full very quickly. So I do have other agencies that I collaborate with, but that's the one that people see face to face, right? So that's your first assignment. Your second assignment is implicit bias. Okay, so on the implicit bias assignment, there is the Harvard implicit bias. You're going to click on that link. When you get to that link, there are several different assessments. Okay, you're going to only take 3 on whatever topic seems interesting to you, and then the tests are not, valid in the sense that they're ideas, and they'll give you an evaluation at the end of a couple of questions, and you may agree with it or you may not agree with it. The point is that you're going to write a 2 to 3 page paper on whether you agree or disagree, okay, on the assessments that you took, right? And it says that you only need to talk about 2 of the assessments, right? But I suggest that you take 3 just in case, and you're going to give examples of limitations and biases that, you can include, and then identify all the people around you that may have led to those type of biases. And then in which way will you monitor those, and expand your multicultural and social justice advocacy awareness. So all that goes into your 2 to 3 page paper. All right. Your third assignment is your position statement assignment. Now, this requires that you do some research. So I strongly suggest that you find a journal article as quickly as possible. And the journal article has to be on leadership or change theory, one or the other, okay? And it has to be a peer-reviewed article. The reason why they're asking you to select one of those is so that you get experience finding journal articles through our library for your future assignments. So you have that experience, all right? And you're going to read the 3 position statements that we have from ASCA. There are 3, the 3 are on cultural diversity, anti-racist practices, and equity. And then you're in a 3 to 5 page paper, you're going to explain how you would apply that knowledge and practice and action as your role as a school counselor, and how you would collaborate with other stakeholders to provide relevant intervention strategies that advocate for and promote social justice for all students. Okay, so using your journal and your position statements. Okay, you only need one journal, and it's either on leadership or change theory, one of the two. Your fourth assignment is your marginalized population poster. The template for your poster is on the paper. So just click on the link for your template, and then that will help you design your poster. When you're creating your poster, you're going to put the following information in there: the summary of the research of literature identifying barriers of access for your marginalized population. You're going to choose a marginalized population from the school in which you work or you're, connected to. And you're going to also talk about equity and success for that group. You're going to propose one or more actions or strategies that counselors can take related to intervening with student academic performance, student engagement, student discipline, school culture, family involvement, and other program supports in the school for the purpose of providing equitable access for that specific group. Okay. The templates, okay, so I have a question. Let me see. The question is asking me if we can use Word docs for the PDF format. I would look at the format first just to see how it is so that your format isn't off. It just helps you to guide the template. You should have Office through your Office subscription should be able to be through your Concordia email for free. Okay, so you need to access that because it isn't a requirement for you to have that. I know I have it through Concordia myself as a professor. So a lot of times your tuition is what helps to get you that free subscription. So
does anyone know that for sure? Because I actually tried my email and it didn't work.
Well, you should have it. So just call the text because you should have it. I mean, it's been available for everybody since 2011. So you should have access to it.
Okay.
Your tuition is high enough. All right. Any questions on the marginalized poster? You can use a different format, but if you can use someone's computer just to see the format and use Canva or something else, I'm fine with that. It's just the poster template so that you understand the goal of it all. Okay? Because otherwise people's vision is different. So providing the template helps you to know that you're following exactly what is expected of you. So you're not providing too much, like you don't have 30 slides thinking, oh, I needed to put that much on it. When you use a template, it kind of gives you that idea. Really, I don't think more than 7 slides or 5 slides is what you need for this particular assignment to answer all the questions. And finally, you have your closing the gap lesson plan. So you're going to go back to your action plan that and the data that you looked at with the first assignment when you filled out the data summary. And then you're going to design a lesson plan for that group. Now, when you're designing the lesson plan, I just gave you an example of myself and how I started from class lessons to small group to individual, right? Because I have some kids that have low self-esteem. So that spiraled off of that group, right? Because now you understand why the teasing is happening. I've got low self-esteem, so I'm teasing people first. So now I'm building self-esteem with the individual kids, and then also still providing the small group, and then still doing class lessons. I'm going to do tolerance lessons in another group that is that other class to help them as well. All I'm asking, you're going to use the template that's on there, and you're going to make one lesson, exactly one lesson. So it might be a middle lesson. So if it is the middle lesson, say I would have in the directions, I would review what I did previously. And this would be the follow-up lesson to this. Okay. It can be for any age level. It can be on any topic. I talked about several topics earlier: self-esteem, tolerance, social emotional, conflict resolution, bullying. It can be anything. And again, I'm going to say it one more time. You're doing one lesson, just one. So what's the average length of a lesson?
Fifty minutes, 1 hour.
Huh?
50 minutes?
For high school, yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely high school. Please don't do 50 minutes for the TKs. TKs is 10 to 15 minutes, because otherwise you'll hear about their dog and their turtle. Okay. And so if you did a TK lesson, because I have some TK people in here, right? So if you did a TK lesson, basically you're just repeating that one concept over and over again. What I say, oh yeah, yeah. What I say, yeah, yeah. And then they get it. And then you come back in and you say, what did I say last time? Oh, she said this. And that's it. That's your focus. Okay. Now, when you get to kinder through second, you kind of expand that a little bit more, about 20 minutes. And then when you get to fourth and fifth, they can do about 30, 40 minutes, unless you're constantly moving. Now, with my fourth and fifth graders, I go on and do college and career, and I say about an hour. But I have a lot of things that they're doing. They get up, they sit down, they get up, they play a game, they get up, so when I'm in there, I'm constantly teaching them something, and we're going from the board for visuals to hands-on, and then I'll show a video, so we're doing a lot of different things. So if I'm moving that much, I might stay an hour, right? But if we're not moving that much, I try to get the concept in, and I'm in and out in 40 minutes. Okay. So that one lesson, so that's your length of time. And then please don't pack it with a million things. You want to hit the two concepts in there. What are you teaching? And what's the concept that you're teaching? The two things. And then that's it. Okay. Your template tells you exactly the format and what you need to fill out. Okay. On the template, I believe there's one section that says, what are the results? Well, you're not teaching the lesson, so you don't have to fill that part. Okay. If you were going to teach the lesson and you got the feedback from it, then that's when you would fill that section out. But you're not actually teaching it. You're just designing it. Now, when I say designing it, does that mean you have to start from scratch? No, we always borrow from other people. We always borrow from other people. So you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, whatever you think is interesting, and that will capture the attention. And what's your style as a counselor? What do you want your style to be? Okay. Questions, concerns. Now, this paper says individual for that last closing the gap thing. And I think somewhere else on your thing, it said something about group. There's no group. Okay. You're just going to turn in one lesson plan. So you're not working with anybody. They had it as a group assignment in the past, but they don't have it as a group assignment now. Okay. So it's just one lesson.
I have a question on that final assignment. I clicked on templates and it gave me a zip file.
Yes, you're going to open up the zip file, and you're going to see it. And it says it's called, let me open it. I keep forgetting what it's called.
Okay. So I opened up zip file, then I get to templates, and that gives me several like advisory council.
Correct. Yeah. I got to extract it. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right. So there's one called lesson plan. Of all of that stuff at the top, if you go all the way down, there's one called lesson plan. That's the one you're going to use.
Okay. And that is actually not opening at all. It's a Word doc.
Yeah, it's because it's a Word doc, but it does open for me.
Yeah, it's not opening on my end.
All right.
I don't know if maybe someone else can open it. Maybe I can get it emailed or, but yeah, none of.
I think it's also on, let me go, no, I don't have that open yet. I'll put it as a Word doc, but this is what it looks like. Can you see it now?
Hold
Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this one is, and this is from ASCA. It's actually on the ASCA website. So if you can't get it from there, you can get it from the ASCA website. I can send it to you. It's not a big deal, but
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. None of those files open for me at all.
so this one is, you didn't extract it probably. Did you extract it?
Oh, how about hit extract? Okay, hold
Yeah,
on.
you got to extract it because if you don't extract it, it won't open. So this is you put your title there. It's a single classroom lesson. You would say if you were doing a unit lesson and this was the number 3 lesson of 8, you would put that in there, right? And it's a small group, and then your targeted audience, and then your evidence-based practices, and then your students' standard targets, your student learning objectives, okay, and then your ASCA mindsets and behavior statement. You're going to get that from the ASCA website. And then your learning objectives, your materials, and as you type, it just moves down. So when you don't worry about, oh, that's not big enough, it'll just expand when you use this template, okay? Then you're going to introduce your focus. You're going to fill in each one of these sections, right? So it says anticipated number of students, plan lesson time. You're going to do that part. The pre and post, you always have a pre and post. Usually the pre and post is the same exact question. So it's like 3 questions or 4 questions. How much did they know about this when they came in? And then how much did they know about it after you completed the lessons, right? Here is the section that you will not do. Outcome data plan. Everybody see that part? You will not fill that in. That should be blank. And then follow-ups would be if someone missed the lesson, how would you get it to them in that section, okay?
Okay, so
And this is
anything that you have a template for us, we're allowed to just use the template other than like the poster. That's just an example, the way you want it. But anything that you have a template for, we use the template to turn in.
You use the template. Always use the template in every class. Okay. Same with go to the APA format writing template. So when you are writing your essays for all of the other assignments, you're using that template. Okay, make sure you're using that template. And that's found, hold on a second. Okay, mine looks different than yours because I'm here, but if you go into the section for resources, APA resources right there, that's where your APA template is. Okay, so just make sure, and that way you get all your points for APA format. All right. Okay, any questions, concerns about the class, the course? What your expectations? Okay, I got a couple questions about I have to miss. That always happens. Don't worry about it. Life is happening. And life will continue to happen. So if emergencies happen, I posted the extra assignment. Remember, if you miss more than 2 live sessions, you are not able to get a grade for the course. However, if you want the points, you can also calculate your points. Sometimes missing 15 points won't really do much to you, especially if you're getting all your points. So see if you need the points before you write the extra assignment. But if you need the points, then go ahead and complete that assignment if you happen to miss a class, okay? It could be an emergency situation. You could just say, hey, I have an emergency. I won't be in class. I'll inform you later. That's fine. And then you can turn in that assignment as well. I am recording our classes. So that's part of the assignment so that you are able to do the missed assignment. I will upload them, and I will upload them under the week that we had the live session. So 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay. And it says live session recording. So when you click on that, you'll see the session that you may have missed. Okay. Any questions, concerns about the assignment? This week, you just have your reading and your videos. Week 2, you have your 1 discussion board and your first assignment due. And I'll have my instructor video. My instructor video is already up for week 2. And then I will see you again in week 3. Please remember and take note of our spring break. It may be different from your spring break, just so you're not confused. Again, this is always the time where I planned a vacation and it's right during this time. So again, that's why I posted the announcement. So just go ahead. I mean, that is not an excused absence. However, if that's the one you're going to miss, that's the one you're going to miss. Okay. Any other questions or concerns about the class or the course? I'm available. I'm a great texter. Emails I get to a little bit later because I have 17 million emails already. So give me a chance to get back to you for emails. But texting, I can answer a question really quick on text. And so as long as it's simple, if it requires us to have a discussion, just say, can we meet? And I'll be happy to give you a call on my way home somewhere, and then we can have a discussion about whatever concerns you may have. Okay? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I look forward to seeing you again, week 3, and have a great evening.
I have one question, Professor. For the discussion board on week 3, it says read this brief article, but when I look at it and I tried to download it, it was like 168 pages. Is that the brief article? Because I'm like, that wasn't very brief. Or unless I'm looking at the wrong thing.
You are looking at the wrong thing. Do not download the PDF. The article is right below it.
Okay. Because I was like, that wasn't very brief. I was like, wow, okay.
Now that looks like a publication for something, but the article itself is just, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Good question.
Professor, I had a question about assignment 4, the signature assignment. If we're able to answer all the questions with 1 poster template, 1 slide, is that sufficient?
Absolutely not. I will not be able to read that. Please do not do that.
Okay, because it says.
Please do not do that.
So you want
the writing
5
will be
slides?
this big. The writing will be this big.
Okay.
You cannot put all of those questions. You cannot put the answer to all those questions on 1 slide. That's virtually impossible.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I think she was, because in the directions it says a big huge poster, so it's confusing in the directions for the assignment. So you're just saying though, do like slides, so 1 slide, 2 slide, 3, so it's like a presentation as
Well, they have different templates. Like I think there was a poster template, and so if you use the poster template and you use the different sections, yes, of course, but so it doesn't have to be a PowerPoint. There's another one up there that says research poster. So,
okay, I think
so if you use the research poster one with and that looks like a newspaper, I think,
right,
with different sections. Yeah, of course.
Okay, but we can do a slideshow though, if that otherwise a presentation.
But please don't put all of those on 1 slide. That would be impossible to see.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and then also be very, very cautious when you are uploading your presentation. Make sure you're uploading it in the proper format, because a lot of times it happens, and especially if you're using different subscriptions and stuff, make sure it's in a PDF. The PDF is the best one. But if you can, do a PowerPoint, but if you're not using PowerPoint, then just do a PDF. It's easier because it's going to come out correctly. And if you want me to, because by the time you upload it and then I say I can't open it because you didn't, then time has gone by and I'm going to dock points after that. Okay, so just make sure, like, if you want to send it to me and say, can you open this? And then I open it and then I say, yeah, go ahead and upload it. You can email it to me if you have questions about it. But PDF is the best format. Okay, if you don't have PowerPoint or a Microsoft Office subscription, something like that, okay? All right. Any other questions or concerns? All right, I will see you week 3. Have a great evening. Good night.